we got here is factory wiring besides this, which is a trickle charger that the previous owner had on it, and they installed it right at the battery, which is what most people do. And I mean, the factory, this has got a factory installed winch, and it's right there too. And then you got your main wire here. Might have been a dealer installed winch, not the factory, right? I don't know, but the it is a special edition, so maybe. But this is your starter solenoid or a relay, and you got one main wire going to it, and then actually there's another wire there. So there's two wires coming from the main out, and then one goes here and one goes down to another feed. So you got a junction here, then you got a junction here, and this is a hot point. When that magnet pulls that solenoid down, it creates heat because there's mechanical motion. And here is a heat source as well, the battery. So they got two junctions here, a main junction here for higher amp loads, and then one smaller amp load. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4 wires meeting at this connection, and then you got two here. Two here is not so bad, but neither of it is really good, right? So now I'm going to eliminate this and go from there. Now cut this, which was that's the winch wire, and disconnected this, which is this spaghetti looking. I got unioned here, unioned here. They got it series. It'll be a series here, and that would technically, this would be a parallel technically, but it's got a series and parallel both. So now I'm gonna make that go away. Okay, now I took the cover off and I installed this terminal junction stud, which is a heat sink. And now I'm gonna finish getting this ready. Alright, now that's what we got. Relocated this fuse for the battery charger, battery tender plug that the original owner had. I moved it there instead of it being here. And then now I've got these wires straightened out so that there's only one wire hooked here at the battery, just one wire, and it goes up here, and then that's where it connects the rest of the wires, and each one of them feed off of that instead of feeding off of this. Well, they still feed off this, but not before that. And it has the, pull it off here and show you. It has the red stuff, CRC. Got a little thing where it goes, and so that just keeps it protected, just like that regular battery cover. But now we don't have wires going across the top of the battery where they were. The winch wire, it's this one, it now goes back over and then back up and then to that, instead of coming across and tying in. So if you did have to jump it off, it would be easier to clamp that versus having a bunch of wires to it, you know. But you won't have to jump it off now, because the corrosion that usually shows up here, it won't show up here because this is a heat sink. And it also has the CRC stuff, which is really awesome stuff. But so now this wire that was going here is going here, but it's really just adding just that much length. It's no big deal. So now it's ready to get put back together. And I have the ground. The ground here is also been done already, so it only has one wire here, and then it's also got that protected stuff on it. The bracket hole was a little funny, but didn't hurt nothing. So now I've got a situation that's not going to cause future situations for components in the system, because I've isolated the resistance to an area that is not a source of heat, like a battery or a solenoid. So I'm letting this one do its job, I'm letting that one do its job, I'm letting this one do its job, instead of depending on this one and this one to do the job of that one, which is what is done. But the reason it's done, when they just have it like it was stock and earlier in the video, is because they want you to buy batteries. They want you to hook up a battery charger and just leave that thing pulling electricity out of the grid, you know. That's what they want you to do, but you don't have to do that. You can install a disconnect, just like the old Caterpillar equipment had years ago. You just disconnect it, and then that keeps the battery isolated into itself for the ground circuit, and then the length of the hot circuit. If you isolate the battery here, if you take that battery cable off, your battery is going to be the battery, and the wires that are hooked to the battery is also the size of the battery. As soon as you connect that ground, it becomes the whole frame and the whole ground. That battery and that frame are one. They're connected, so they're one. So when you have a disconnect set up that's close to the battery within feet, you're able to disconnect it, and then that shrinks that circuit. So while that battery's sitting there idle, not doing no favors for your system, it can be separated and not have such a draw on it, because the factory system has a clock in it, and the clock will run down the battery. It even says so in the manual if you leave it set for over a week. Well, I usually don't let it set that long, but in general, sometimes it might sit 2 or 3 days in cold weather, and I don't want the battery to go bad on account of a clock. So my solution is this setup here, and I kind of call it a one-wire setup, because at the end you're just left with one wire going to the terminal on either terminal. If you do both, some situations I've only done the positive. The ground didn't have a bunch of wires going to it, but one company that does this is Chevrolet, GM. They do it on some of their vehicles. I've done it for years. I'm going to show you some more in later videos of other vehicles I've done it to, and it gives you a better setup for a good foundation for the rest of your system. And if you've made it this far, I tell you what, thanks for watching, and wish you zero corrosion on your batteries for real, because that stuff is a slow killer and it's no good. Alright, y'all take care. Thanks.